Alrighty, so in 19.2, we're going to look at negative and zero powers. So our learning targets for today: understand what is meant by negative and zero powers, and simplify expressions involving exponents. So what I'd like for you to do is for you and your neighbor to go through and complete the table in number 1 and number 2. And to do number 1, 2, and then 3. And we'll walk around and see what you're thinking.
Do I have to write it out?
Yes. Whole, you get to do x to the 4th over x to the 10th.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Allie, you get to do number 2.
Wait, what did I do? Oh, because I have like. Okay. So those people are going to be starting to just. I think I did that wrong. So I have Jackie, who likes crazy. Hate food, I really close to it. I have Allison Jordan Thompson.
That's all right. Nice.
Oh.
All right. So, Case, would you please explain what's going on in this top one here? All right, so 3 5s on top, 6 5s on the bottom. And then what's the crossing out? What does that represent? Okay, so we're dividing, and then these things, because we're multiplying and dividing by the same thing, they cancel. And so we're doing that. We have, there's 3, so there's 3 that cancel, and so we have 3 left in the denominator, right? So we have, and when it's in the denominator, is that a positive or a negative exponent? Negative, because we have 0 on top, and so 0, 5 to the 0, minus 3. We have negative 3. We have 3 left, and that negative tells us it's in the denominator.
The athletic trainer is here. If you'd like to see it, go to the trading room.
All right, so Ty, what's going on in the second one, where we have a to the 3rd divided by a to the 8th?
Well, cross out half the days.
All right, so we have.
Half the days.
All right, so we're dividing. So if you're multiplying, divide by the same number, it cancels out. So we have nothing left, and so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left in the denominator. So if it's in the denominator, is that a positive or negative exponent?
Negative.
That would be negative. So we had 3 in the numerator. We had 8 in the denominator. So when we subtract 3 minus 8, we're left with a negative 5, right? And that represents that 5 that's in the denominator. Madison, absent. Michaela, you get to explain the third one. So we have x to the 4th divided by x to the 10th. All right.
Or X.
X, yep. All right, so questions on what we're doing there? All right, so Allie had number 2, so based on the pattern you observed in item 1, write the missing exponent in the box below to complete the negative power property for exponents. So if we have exponents left in the denominator and nothing more to cancel in the numerator, then what's going to happen with our exponents? If we're just left with the stuff in the denominator, our exponents are they positive or negative? Negative. So 1 over a to the n can also be written as a to the negative n. And so we can see that pattern here. We have 6 x's left in the denominator, so we can write that as x to the negative 6. Here we have 5 a's left in the denominator, so we can write that as a to the negative 5th. Here we have 3 5's left in the denominator, so that can be rewritten as 5 to the negative 3rd. So if we have a to the n power in our denominator, we can rewrite that as a to the negative n. Then we have this little bubble over here on the side that tells us that 1 over x to the 3rd can also be written as x to the negative 3rd. So questions before we move on? Excelente. So I think most of you had the second box and number 3 completed. So Grace, do you want to come up and do 5 to the 6th over 5 to the 6th? Mom's absent. Barry, do you get to do a to the 3rd over a to the 3rd? And then Jordan, you just want to explain what Grace is doing here real quick? Right, because what you're multiplying and when you're dividing in the denominator, everything cancels. And when you're dividing by the same amount that you're multiplying by, what happens? What are you left with? Well, your exponent is 0, but what's the number when you multiply and divide by the same number? When you take a number and divide it by the same amount, what are you left with? 1, right? So anything to the 0 power, how else could we write this? So 5 to the 6th is a number divided by 5 to the 6th. What are we left with? A number divided by itself is always 1. So 5 to the 0 power is also 1. So a to the 3rd divided by itself, any number divided by itself is 1. But what happens to our exponent? 3 minus 3 is 0. So a to the 0 power can also be rewritten as what number? So if you ever see any base to the 0 power, what should you automatically do? Cross it out and write a 1. Make life easy on yourself. All right, questions so far? So 1, 2, and 3, are we okay? So number 4, a to the 0, we can write that as 1. That's a lot of 1. I want you to know that. So now what I would like for you to do with your neighbor is to go through 5A through D and evaluate them. What does evaluate mean? What does evaluate? When you're asked to look at it and do what? Solve it. Calculate it. So for each of these, you should have a number. So go through and calculate, evaluate those. So you should have uno number for each of those.
Can I just?
All right. And then Cole, will you write yours up here?
I got
Yeah. B.
right up here.
Yep. All right. So Michaela, you did letter A. So will you explain your thought process behind how you set that one up?
Well, there's 1 over 2 negative 3 products, so let's have 3 times to the bottom 2 or negative, and then 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8, so that I got negative 4.
Perfect. So this one, well, a lot of you put that into the calculator, right? If we think about it, if our exponent's negative, what does that tell us? It's on the bottom. It's in our denominator. Yes.
Okay, is braces for C or
It's for C. So if we have a negative exponent automatically think bottom. Bottom. All right, so then our base is what's being multiplied, right? That's what we're taking. If it's going to be, that many times. How many times do we take our base for letter A? We take it 3 times. So the 3 tells us the number of times that we're taking the base. So how many times are we taking our base in A? 3 times. We're taking it 3 times in the bottom. So 2 times 2 is
4
times 2 is 8. So when we see this, 1/8. And your calculator said 0.125, right? And what is that as a fraction? 1/8. So really, if you're keeping it in fractions, and if you're doing if this is part of a more complicated problem, 1/8 is probably easier to work with than 0.125. And it's also pretty quick to calculate in your head. So learn to anticipate your answers. That way, if you forget something or push instead of 8, you push 6 or something that you can, or 5, and you can kind of get that figured out pretty quick. All right, Cole, what number yours? You have 10 to the 4th. It's the red one up here. How did you get that? All right, why? Okay. All right, so we have a common base of 10. So when you have a base of 10 and you divide, what do you do with your exponents? You subtract them. So we have 2 minus a negative 2, because our denominator isn't, our value down there is negative 2. When we subtract a negative, what do we end up doing? We ended up adding. So 2 minus a negative 2 turns out to be 2 plus 2, which is 10 to the 4th. All right, and then we have braces here. We have 3 to the negative 2 times 5 to the 0. 5 to the 0, what should we automatically think? 1. So 5 to the 0 is 1. So then we have 3 to the negative 2. What does the negative tell us? Bottom. And what does the 2 tell us? the number of times that you're multiplying it, right? Multiplying it that many times, but where are we multiplying it? In the bottom. And what are we multiplying in the bottom? What's our base? 3. So we have 1 over, because we're going to the bottom. Our base is 3, and how many times are we multiplying 3? So we have 1/9. All right, how do we feel about all that? All right, so looking at example A, we're going to read through this. We only have a couple minutes left, but we're going to read through this, and then I will give you your homework assignment. You guys have questions? Our homework is going to be the practice. So read through this and discuss.